takes a few seconds to actually go live. So let's blabber on a bit before I welcome everybody. Blah, 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 blah. And now, welcome everybody to this week's absolutely gorgeous community call. This is going to be a fun one. I'm signing in this time from Barcelona. I'll be here for a month. So if you're in Barcelona and want to hang out, maybe grab something to drink, then hit me up because I'll be here for a month. What you may notice is that Hux is not here with us today. That is because he said he found new friends, so he's not going to be attending these community calls any longer, even though I always made sure to always say nice things to him and be nice, but apparently he just doesn't like us anymore. So anyways, it is what it is. No, I'm just joking, by the way. He's just busy, so don't worry, guys. Hux will be back hopefully next time, but who I do have with me this time is Sachin. Say hi to the people.
Hey guys, how are you?
Sachin is NIM's Cosmos engineer. So we're gonna have a fun talk about Nix today, the future of it, and hopefully also the Cosmos ecosystem at large. But before that happens, as usual, I'm gonna run through the quick weekly news roundup to sort of get you guys up to speed on what happened to the program. If you have any questions at any point, either to me or Sachin, as usual, make sure to drop it in the chat. And with that, let's get started. All right, so just a quick reminder to everybody that the time to sign up for the MVP and waitlist is now. So you can do it until the 15th of February. And if you do so, you may even win $50 worth of NIM tokens. So a link to the Gleam event will be shared in the chat. Next up, another quick reminder is that quizzes will happen today. Some of them, the Asian ones, in the APAC region already happened, but the rest of them are still to happen on our Discord server. So make sure to join. For those of you who are new in the community, we're doing bi-weekly quizzes from a NIM related topic. Usually it's a blog post that was recently released that we take as the material, and then we turn it into questions, and you can test your knowledge on NIM against all the other community members. And if you do well, you may even win some NIM tokens. It's a pretty fun activity. It's a tradition in the NIM community. So if you want, make sure to join on the NIM Discord server. A link was shared in the chat. Next up, our CEO Harry Halpin was interviewed by CCN about the AI, about AI's intervention in elections. Many of you probably already know, but quite a few of you, I assume, don't know that Harry actually has his PhD in AI research. I think specifically in LLMs, so large language models. So he's the right person to ask about this. And as you guys may imagine, with the AI boom that is happening these days, elections are legitimately under threat, right? And it's also a year 2024, I think, is the year when around 70% of the world population will be going to vote. So it's so there's going to be a lot of countries which will have elections this year. So obviously it's a very timely topic. It's a really great interview and a great article, so make sure to check it out. And then there was also, I can also give you a second round of NSL updates. As most of you know, we recently launched a NIM Squad League, which is a system for our community to be able to contribute to the NIM vision, basically. And we gave a few workshops to Shinobi and Ninja already, the top level NIM contributors who were already onboarded to the program. And the mission list for Ninja and Shinobi has already been published. So if you didn't have the time to keep an eye on the internal Ninja and Shinobi chats, if you happen to be a Ninja or Shinobi, make sure to check out the list and apply for any grants that you see fit. And then if you haven't been invited to the Squad League yet as a Ninja or Shinobi, then make sure to apply for next season, which starts with the next quarter, aka from April. Make sure to sign up as a Nimster for the broader launch of NSL, which is going to be very exciting. And last up on the news roundup is something that I think is really exciting. I'm super looking forward to this one. There is going to be a series of network level tests. Basically, the entire NIM mixnet will be put under some extreme level load. So this will be a major testing event. Some of you may remember the NIM Connect mass testing events about almost 2 years ago during Shipyard Academy. Well, this will be that, but way more hardcore. So as a node operator or a gateway operator, you can you can opt in for this test, which you will have to like bond your node, like multi-bond your node to the existing non-test environment, which it's already bonded to, but also to a test environment where the test will be running. So this will be a really fun test, and if you want to put your node under some extreme load and see if it's up to snuff, and maybe even get some bragging rights if it survives the test, then make sure to keep an eye out, because further details are going to be coming very soon your way. So it looks like the testing will happen on the week of the 18th of March, so 2 weeks from now. And before then, of course, you will get details on how to join the test, when the test exactly is going to take place, and all the other details that you may need to join. All right, folks. And with all of that said, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the discussion. Sachin, how is it going today?
Awesome, Sudo. It's nice to be here. It's unfortunate that Hux couldn't join. It's a huge shoe to be filling in his place, but I'm going to try my best.
Don't worry, man. We can easily fill Hux's shoes. The two of us, I think we can do this. All right. So for those of us who don't know you, I will introduce you as the first ever NIM community hire. It was a while back when you joined the team, but back then you were the first community hire that I know of. I will also let you introduce yourself. What should people know about you?
Sure. Yeah, I joined full time about 6 months back, but my journey with NIM started way longer, way back. I think it was about 2 years ago actually more than 2 years ago, about 3 years ago when NIM had their initial testnet. OG community members might remember that we still had those days where we were giving out Polygon NFTs, which was unofficial, of course, which were when we cost 500 mixed nodes. So it was a wild ride. I also run a validator, so I've been validating for NIM since day one, which is I think we hit mainnet almost 2 years ago and have been running a validator since then. Um, so yeah, that's a short intro about me, and it's nice to be here, guys. I've always been on the other side of the community call, listening to Sudo doing his things. But it's nice to be on this side talking to Sudo.
It's nice to finally have you on, and also thanks for taking the time from your busy days to come on. All right, so let's start with the basics for the possible new joiners who are listening to this call first and have never heard about NIM or Nix before. So, what is Nix, and what is its role when it comes to the NIM network overall? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Nix, as some of you might know, is our blockchain, which is powering all of NIM's technologies, right? So if you use Mixnet, if you use any of the things that NIM has, all of the transactions and all of the data which you currently see or which you interact with, in fact, is processed on the blockchain, right? So Nix is a Cosmos SDK based application, which means that it's built using Cosmos SDK. And maybe just to understand Nix a little better, what you need to understand is the app chain thesis of Cosmos, right? So what app chain thesis means is that every application, any application that needs a blockchain can have their own L1. Maybe to understand this a little bit more, let's just take the example of Ethereum, right? So let's say if I'm a Ethereum developer and if I want to develop an application, what I would really do is write my contracts in Solidity or Viper and really upload it on Ethereum, right? Things work fine. I have a lot of control over how the application works, but what happens is that I do not really have control over the consensus layer, right? So let's say if I want to enable things like I want to pay gas using my own tokens, or if I want control over, let's say, how fast the blocks are produced, that cannot be done by on Ethereum because it's an application which exists. It's a general purpose blockchain, right? So in case if I want to make changes to Ethereum, I have to go to Ethereum Foundation, raise a EIP proposal. It's going to take months, right? So that's something that is not very desirable for people. So because of restrictions like this, what Cosmos did was they enabled anybody to spin up blockchain applications, right? So how Cosmos works is that you can take Cosmos SDK and you should be able to customize any part of it, right? So what we have done as part of NIM is we took Cosmos SDK, We took some other modules, which we will discuss in a little bit, and we built our own blockchain so that we can customize it the way we want, right? So, for example, on Nix, you can pay gas using either NIM or Nix tokens. You can also customize things like how many validators, what is the block time. So all of those things can be customized, right? So I know it's a mouthful, but in short, it is a custom blockchain that we use for powering NIM. We also have a smart contracting platform called Cosmwason, which is basically what's powering all of NIM's mixnet. Right. So maybe we can discuss that in a while, but that's just the overview of what Nix is.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. All right, so let's get into some updates that people may not yet have heard about, depending on whether they are part of a validator team or not. So recently, validator rewards were enabled on Nix, right? So can we walk people through what was the process and how the rewards currently work?
Sure. So for the longest of the time, one of the problems that we had is that validators were not rewarded, right? So it's been almost 2 years. And because we have this two coins, one is nim and the other one is nix. Maybe just for the new people who have come in, what's happening with nim is that nim is the fixed supply token that is used to power the mixnet. That means that it's always going to have 1 billion supply, not more, right? And the original plan for Nix was that it's going to be the staking token for validators, which is completely different from NIM, because that can be we can have inflation on it, and that is really how Cosmos pays for validators, right? So if you guys are familiar with Cosmos ecosystem, you should be familiar that most of the chains have hundreds of validators, and how they how it works in a decentralized sustainable way is that they enable inflation, and the tokens that they get is what is really rewards for them, right? So as somebody has asked, if it's bringing any profit, that's how we're really paying for it, right? So unfortunately, Nix is something that we didn't launch yet, because we are really focusing on NIM VPN, and to bring in the first paying customer to NIM. So what we did recently was we enabled payments for validators in NIM, right? So how it works is that we have a custom monitor which monitors performance of validators. So let's say if you are, let's say in a 10,000 block window, if you have signed all 10,000 blocks, you will get all the rewards that a validator is supposed to get, right? So instead of enabling the custom rewards in Nix, what we are doing is we have a custom solution where NIMs are going to be paid to validators for doing their hard work, right? And we also have a distribution on how the rewards are going to be paid. So, for example, right now, 66% of the reward pool is going to be paid for validators just for signing blocks, and the remaining rewards are kind of reserved for people for the validators when they're going to be signing credentials for ZKNIMs, which is coming soon, right? So in short, yeah, we just recently started rewarding validators, and one of the other steps, that's one of the critical steps for us to decentralize the set, because we did not really want to decentralize the set before rewarding, because people are just going to come in, run a validator, and they're probably going to complain that, hey, I'm running a validator, I'm doing a lot of hard work, I'm paying a lot for the servers, but I'm not getting rewarded, right? So that's just one of the issues that even existing validators were having. So we have solved that now, and one of the next things that we are looking forward to is decentralizing the set.
Right. Um, And okay, so we already kind of talked about this, right? So currently the Nix validator set is not permissionless. It will be, so that has been a goal for like since basically the inception of the NIM network. So what is the process and timeline from here to there, as much as you can share about that?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we are not really launching Nix, so it makes it really challenging to onboard new validators, because it's not a liquid token that anybody can get, right? So the team was really thinking about how to do this, and the solution that we have come up is what we internally call a Hotel California swap contract. So what it does is that we are going to have a Cosmos smart contract, which is going to sit on the next chain, and anybody can really interact with it, right? So how that's going to work is that you can deposit NIM tokens, and we are going to have a fixed ratio on how much you can exchange. For example, let's say the ratio is about um, 4 NIX tokens for one NIM. So anybody will be able to permissionlessly call this contract, deposit some NIM tokens, and get NIX tokens in return. So let's say if you submit about 1,000 NIMs, you'll be able to get about 4,000 NIX tokens back. And so now that you have NIX tokens, you will be able to take this NIX tokens and bond your validator. And once you bond the validator, you will enter the validator set, and you will be eligible for rewards that is currently being paid out. So that's the plan. We have almost finished developing the contract. It's being audited. We're also making sure that there are no exploits on it, because we are really dealing with NIM tokens here, which has value. So better safe than sorry, but it's coming real soon, guys. So watch out for announcements which is coming out.
Was that a classic soon TM, Sachin? You can say it like that as well. It's our trademark. So
Between 2 weeks and end of the year, as you say in the group chats, but it's coming sooner than that.
exactly. Now, I think before we go on, let's jump. We have a few community questions already. So we have a few from Matrix. I'll start with those, and then we go through the YouTube ones as well, and then we can move on to the rest of my questions for you. So, do you know? Actually, if you don't, then I can probably dig up a really good answer to this question. But do you know why Nim chose Cosmos for his blockchain? The question is from John Smith. Thanks for the question. Sorry.
That's really a good question. I believe it's because we wanted contracts to be written in Rust. And as far as I know, I don't think there is another platform which lets you write contracts in Rust, because Rust is really a performant language and things can be done. As someone is also pointing out, IBC is one of the reasons, because once you come on Cosmos, you really get interoperability. And IBC is really, I believe, one of the technologies that every blockchain is going to adopt. So it makes it really easy to do interoperability between multiple blockchains, right? For example, let's say if you have zk NIMs, one of the long-term visions is that you can have multi-chain zk NIMs. That means that you can really generate credentials on NIM, and you can send that across blockchain, for example, in Cosmos-based blockchains, and do your zk NIM verifications there. So that's something that can be done, but that really doesn't answer why NIM chose Cosmos in the first place. This is really before my time, right?
It
But
kind of does, actually.
yeah, but it really is a good choice according to me, because I am a Cosmos maxi. So whatever it was a really good reason that NIM chose Cosmos.
Right, you heard it here first. Sachin is a Cosmos Muxi, but yeah, actually, you kind of nailed it. So the good answer to this question, which I will not be able to dig up now, maybe one of our CMs can find. There was a really nice Twitter space with our former CTO Dave, where like he made this decision back in the day, and he explained why he got really excited about Cosmos to use for Nix. And these were some of the reasons. The other reason, of course, was so IBC was a major one, and gas fees was another very important one. So like very low transaction costs was also another one. But maybe one of our CMs can dig up that Twitter space, because I think it was a really good overview of the times when this decision was made. All right, next question. I think we thoroughly answered John's next question about the Nix token. So that's a hard soon TM, right? Um, and then the last one from Matrix is from Rocio. Thanks for another good question, as always. What basic skills should a developer have to start learning everything about Nix, Cosmos, and then create something interesting?
Again a good question. So you have multiple ways that you can contribute to Cosmos, right? So if you're really a developer, and if your aim is to write decentralized applications, there are two major paths that you can take. One of it is learning Rust, and then taking up CosmWasm development. So maybe just to reiterate again, CosmWasm is the smart contracting platform. So what you do is you can write smart contracts in Rust language, and then you can either upload it on Nix or any other blockchain which supports CosmWasm. So in Cosmos ecosystem, there are also these general purpose blockchains like Juno and Neutron. So what they do is they allow anybody to permissionlessly upload contracts on them, right? So you can really learn Rust, you can learn Cosm Wasm. There are really great resources out there. So if any of you are interested, I can drop links. So that's one way to go about it. And why really it's a preferred approach is that it's a lot more dynamic to do this, and you can really do fast iterations of your code. So let's say if you're making version 1 and version 2, you can move really fast between versions without actually doing a lot of work on the blockchain, right? The second way you can go about, let's say if Rust is too much for you, if Rust is something that confuses you like it confuses me, what you can also do is take the Golang approach. So what you can do is you can write custom modules for Cosmos SDK, right? So as of now, Cosmos SDK is a Golang application, and how it works is that each of the things in Cosmos is a different module, right? So as Sudo mentioned, one of the reasons that Nim also chose is because of the customization. He mentioned gas fees, but what really you can do is you can customize every single thing in Cosmos. So let's say if you want to replace gas fees or make gas fees absolutely zero, you can do that, right? That's because that Cosmos is very modular and you can swap out any module for any module. So let's say hypothetically I'm building a meme chain, right? And I want every transaction to be burned like 10% tax. I can implement that in Cosmos because all of the things are open source and all of the modules are, can be just plugged into a Cosmos application, right? So if you are somebody who wants to write Go code, what you can do is you can go to Interchain Academy. It's a wonderful resource that Cosmos Network has. So Interchain Academy will teach you to write Go modules for Cosmos, and it will. I believe you will learn by developing a checkers game, a decentralized checkers game where you can have multiple players and you play against each other. So that's one way you can also start writing um, the apps on Cosmos. The only drawback here, I have to point this out, is that if you're writing Go modules, your iteration for versions is going to be slow, right? Because it's a blockchain, it's very tightly integrated with the blockchain. So every time you need to make an upgrade to your module, you have to do a chain upgrade, right? So you might have heard that we are doing chain upgrades. That really because we are upgrading the blockchain and all the modules which come along with it, right? So if you take the Rust approach, you don't really have to do a lot of things on the blockchain. But if you're taking the Golang approach, you will have to fiddle around with the blockchain a little bit more. I hope that
Okay.
answers your question.
I think it does. Now, before we move on to my last questions, or like my other questions that I had, this will be a nice segue into that, by the way. But Black Snake has asked two questions so far, but they're rephrases of each other. I think the first phrasing was better, but let's see the second one. So let me rephrase the original question. Why would one run or operate any NIM nodes with current luck logic to participate as other than so-called community commitment far from profitable? Question mark. What's your take on this?
Well, I can definitely speak about validators. So if you come to the validators, it's not really luck based. It depends on how much stake you have. And so unlike mixed nodes, how validators work is that they propose blocks for the blockchain. So depending on the amount of stake you have, you're going to be proposing blocks, and proportionally you're getting rewards, right? So there is no component of luck for validators. But if you're running Nimnode, of course, I mean, I can rephrase this question as maybe if I take a similar analogy, that there are thousands of people who run Tor nodes, right? So for instance, I was a privacy maxi and I used to run a Tor exit node. Um, why did I do that? It's probably for the bigger cause that we need to be a part of privacy project, or we need to enable privacy, because I did have few issues with my privacy is doxed in a few places, so I really care about privacy. So if you're somebody who really cares about privacy and improving life of others, and if you don't if rewards or token go up is not your primary objective, then of course you should be running nodes, right? But if profit is your only goal, then what you should really be doing is making contributions to the community. You can see that there are a lot of people who run mixed nodes and as well as contribute to the community. In that way, you're not really relying on luck, but you are also using your skill to make sure that you're getting delegations to your node so that you always stay in the active set, right?
Yes. So, and to be very clear, the luck logic is not really a lock logic, right? So your chances of making it to the active set as a mixed node operator depend on the size of the stake that you have on your node. So it's a reputation system. There is luck involved, right? But that's a weighted randomness towards the nodes which have more stake. So you will be like that. So saying luck is not the right way of putting it, because it would make people think that it's like a completely random process where some node, like a lottery, is selected, which is not the case, right? So there is a whole system in place to avoid malicious actors, and especially what's it called, the people who want to observe the network by setting up malicious nodes, right? To make that very difficult. That's why this system is necessary. That is why you need to have stake on your node to be more likely to make it to the active set, but you can make it to the active set even if your node is not like very highly staked. So luck is not really the the right phrase here. All right,
That's indeed a
moving on.
better answer.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying that's a better answer than mine. So yeah.
And then also maybe adding to this, um trust is important. Like, so the whole community aspect of making your node be more likely to be in the active set, so gathering delegations, is by design, right? It is so that we sort of kind of know which node belongs to whom. We see them active in the community, and we can make sure that that high stake node is not just someone from the NSA setting up like 10 of them with max stake bonded, but it's a node which was set up by an actual community member who we know, right? Who we trust. That's why we delegate to them, and they are trusted. So trust is one of the key things when it comes to any privacy system, right? And trust done right is what NIM is trying to do with its token economic mechanism. All right, moving on with my next questions, because they segue so nicely with the previous thread that you picked up, Sachin. So um, wait a second. Yeah. So is the Nix blockchain any special? Like, it's a Cosmos SDK blockchain, right? Um, what sets it apart?
Um, well, to be honest, it's not really special in any way because we are using Cosmos SDK almost in its vanilla form. It's good and bad in a way because we are not really making any modifications. Thereby, we are really using a battle tested platform, which means that we are using a bare bone version of Cosmos SDK and something called the WASM-D, which is basically a module which allows you to run Cosmos smart contracts, right? But what really sets us apart and why people should come and build is because you get native access to ZK NIMs. So let's say if you are deploying on Nix, you get access to ZK NIMs directly so that you don't have to do interchain stuff, which is not here yet, right? But that's something which is coming in the future where you might be able to do interchain transactions, but building on Nix will give you access to all the good things that NIM is building, and one of them which happens to be which is coming soon is ZK NIMs, right?
And now onto ZK NIMs, right? So you kind of outlined the process how someone could deploy smart contracts on Nix, right? These smart contracts would be running basically on a blockchain which has ZK NIMs enabled. So let's maybe describe what ZK NIMs are. Their first use case is going to be payments for NIM VPN in an anonymous, I can't speak, in an anonymous fashion. That's what I was trying to say. But there are, of course, ZK NIMs is like a broader technology, right? So they can have other use cases as well. So maybe let's unpack ZK NIMs a little bit.
Sure, probably I'm not the best person to discuss ZK NIMs, but I'm going to try, right? So in short,
Putting you on the
what?
spot, Sachin. This is
Yeah,
your interview, your
sure.
performance
So
review.
no pressure at all. Okay. So ZKNIMS is basically, if I have to describe it, it's privacy preserving credential schemes. So what people can do with how it's really different is that it, of course, uses zero knowledge proofs as in the name, right? And we also have features like blind signing and partial signing. So which means that a user, when he or she is requesting credentials, is not going to be requesting credentials from one validator, right? But it's going to be from multiple validators, and each of the validator is going to be signing a part of the signature and not the entire thing, right? So that makes sure that no one single entity can track you. And once you have all these partial credentials from validators, what the user can do is take it offline, bring it to the user, construct the entire credential, and then what the user can also do is do something called randomization. So one of the issues with most of these technologies is that if you have a credential and if you use it multiple times, um, you can actually track the user based on the metadata, things like when the user is accessing. So that really allows you to profile a user. But with re-randomization of these credentials, what you can really do is sort of break that correlation, and it looks like a completely different credential each time, right? So as Sudo mentioned, one of the use of that is going to be for paying for zk-nyms, because we don't really want you to be using a mixed system and you submit all your credit card information, which sort of links you back to who you are. So zk-nyms are going to be used for that, but really you can use it for other things like doing privacy preserving KYCs, and doing all sort of things like selective disclosure. So, for example, let's say if you want to maybe prove your age, what you can do is you can do a selective without actually showing your entire credential. You could only show that specific credentials, and so that really does preserve your privacy. And you can also verify that you are in fact, let's say if it's age verification, and if you want to prove that you're about 18, you can just show that specific attribute of it without actually showing your entire credential, right? So you could really use it for privacy preserving KYCs. You could use it for voting, and I believe NIM has also built a proof of concept for COVID passports, which is, I believe, somewhere in our GitHub repo, right? So those are some of the use cases for zk-nyms.
Amazing. Um, all right. So maybe a bit. I don't know. This may also be uh, one of the questions that you're not the best person to answer. So we can add it to like your performance review, your public performance review. But can you say a bit more about how payments will work via zk-nyms for NIM VPN? Like how do zk-nyms enable anonymous payments for NIM VPN
To be honest,
specifically?
I'm not entirely sure how the payment flow works, so that's going to be something that you need to check. I'm
That's not
sorry.
great,
I'll try,
Sachin. You're
I'll fire myself from them.
you're fired. I'm sorry. That was it. You're getting kicked from the call, and going forward, I will be singing to the community. All right. No, actually, that's totally fine. I also don't know the answer very specifically, so that's totally fine. Now, heading into something that I was really looking forward to hearing, like unless of course there are community questions. Actually, you know what? Maybe let's address community questions now, because after this, there's going to be some uncharted territory that I would like to take this conversation to. Um, all right. So, Rocio is asking. Hopefully, I didn't skip anything. What motivates you most about NIM to be part of the team?
Oh, that's a good question, right? Why I joined NIM is, well, because I was a privacy maxi almost throughout my life. As I mentioned, I used to volunteer for Tor by running multiple nodes. And one of the reasons that I stopped doing that is because I got into legal issues in my country. I literally had cops down at my door, asking me why I'm doing this. So all sort of these things, right? So I was really looking for a way where this would be easier, right? And I was really researching, and that's how I found about NIM. Um, One thing that really stuck with me was the mission statement of NIM, trying to enhance privacy for the entire internet, right? So all of us know at this point that the internet is really broken, and I'm a huge proponent of building privacy for internet so that privacy can really become a human right and not something that is optional, right? And the mission statement and the whole white paper and how nodes would be incentivized really struck a chord with me, and that's what really inspired me to join NIM. That's the short
Yeah,
version of the answer.
maybe I'll also answer. Although I'm taking away from the uncharted territories, like discussions in that uncharted territories that I mentioned, but still, I will also answer this question. So something that I have been keeping an eye on, or had been before joining NIM, keeping a really close eye on, was NSA mass surveillance. So the Snowden revelations really shook me. Before that, I was huge on Google. I was just like a tech nerd, and I didn't even consider the fact that this new both business, so the private and also government model that we're moving towards with these technologies that we're making are fundamentally based on surveillance. I was totally unaware of this, and then the Snowden revelations kind of changed that. And then for a lot of years after the Snowden revelations, um, I was just sort of watching how nobody cares, right? Like actually nobody cares. And whenever I talked about this in like a friend group or whatever, I was the guy who's weird and talking about some things that nobody wants to talk about, right? So sort of like quickly, I just accepted that. Well, yeah, this we're moving towards like a total dystopia, and nobody seems to care. So like I was just sort of bitterly like quietly accepting this and not really talking about it anymore, until I picked up, and I still remember this. I picked up the NIM white paper and read it. From like I don't know 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. and I was super hooked because as it turns out, not only does someone care about the like unsolvable problem of mass surveillance by government, like super powerful government actors, but there's a technical solution proposed, and there's the actual team. Like if you look up Harry, if you look up Claudia, if you look up Anya and their histories, there's the actual team together in one group who is able to pull it off. So that's why I'm here. It's whatever anybody tells you. This is the one existing solution to this very specific problem, which is absolutely a world destroying problem, and a problem that can lead us to dystopia, which there's no way back from. So this is the one existing or for now proposed sort of existing technical solution for that. And we are the team to pull it off. So I'm super confident about that. I've seen that for the past 2 years since I've been here, and this is the only thing driving me every day. Yep.
That's awesome. And also another point is that I mean, if you look at game theory, one of the ways that a system can truly be sustainable is if it's incentivized, right? So NIM is probably the only one out there, probably the first one to make sure that mixed nets were incentivized, so that people also have a reason to make it a long-term game rather than not just do it whenever they want and then be done with it one fine day and the system collapses all at once, right? So that's not something that um, people would be fond of. So really, the incentivization part is also really important, and of course that all needs the blockchain, right? So it was also a time that when I was really starting to explore blockchains, did not really understand much, but now that I'm doing all these things, it really makes sense why everything has to be on a blockchain, and you need a decentralized authority. Unlike in Tor, where you can just censor the centralized authority and the system would just cease to exist, right? So yeah, one other reason is the whole thing working on the blockchain thing, which also interests me in joining them.
Yeah, not to mention really the again, just if you read the white paper, it really shows like the step up from any previous technology. Incentivization is one of those things, right? A non-incentivized system can never scale. So I also see NIM as one of the few blockchain projects with some actual value of the token, like actual utility value, because incentivizing a decentralized system like this, right, which is actual infrastructure, like physical infrastructure for stuff, makes all the sense in the world, because something like Tor will only scale by two things: your goodwill of running Tor nodes, right, and like governments running nodes for other purposes. So scaling, basically the NIM mixnet is infinitely scalable. So there are levers that can be pulled to change the token economic dynamics. We call these um, parameters, right? They can be changed at any time. So like the active set could be much more than 240 nodes if it was required. Could be also be smaller. So there's a bootstrapping period which was enabled by the NIM token basically, and mixed mining pool. And then this system is now, via this token economic model, is also like fully scalable up, down, wherever, which is also not really a common property of any system. So it's like the more you think about it, the more you see how well put together it is, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I'm still very bullish on NIM after 2 years of being here. Hopefully, that's no surprise to anybody, right? Should we go into the uncharted territories? All right, folks. Before we go there, um, none of what is none of what will be said going forward is financial advice, right? But I initially wanted to introduce Sachin as the major degen of NIM, or degen major, as he has his ears to the ground. He knows quite a bit, especially about the Cosmos ecosystem. Like you heard, he's a Cosmos maxi. So I wanted to like take the conversation to this direction a little bit because we're in this whole ecosystem of Cosmos, right? Just like everywhere, there's a lot of air, of like nothing basically, but there are quite a few promising projects in this ecosystem. So we're heading into a major bull run. It looks like maybe it even already started a bit early and ahead of time. So let's talk about the projects that you're keeping a close eye on this bull run without giving anybody any financial advice. Um, what should we pay attention to? What exciting stuff is going on in the Cosmos ecosystem right now?
right? So, again, not financial advice, guys. So please do not buy tokens based on what I say here. But one project that I specifically wanted to talk about, which can potentially help people running mixed nodes or validators, is that I'm not sure if any of you have heard of something called the Akash network. So Akash network is maybe in a single sentence is the decentralized AWS, right? So what they have really done is that they have created a decentralized economy where people can not only hire servers, but they can also rent GPUs. So if you look at recently that NVIDIA blew up because of the whole AI thing and we do not have GPUs anywhere. But what Akash is really doing is really bringing the people who have GPUs or maybe even have server racks to bring them to a decentralized economy, and people can really get paid for it, right? So how it works is that maybe let's say if you want to run a mix node, what you usually do is that you go to a centralized place like maybe a Google Cloud or Hetzner, which seems to be very popular among mix node people, DigitalOcean and all these things, right? But you really have risks with running it in a centralized entity like Hetzner. Because if you had followed news recently, you heard that Hetzner has been taking down nodes because they were running validators for Solana, right? So that's a real risk that you can deal with, right? So instead of running a server or mixed node or a validator on, let's say, a centralized server, what you could do is you could go to Akash network. It's AKASH. Um, um, no two ways, right? So it's AKSH Akash network, where what you really do is you go there. You could procure some Akash tokens. Again, don't do it for the profit, but if you really want to run nodes, you could procure Akash tokens, go to Akash console, and you could really spin up a server and you could run a decentralized mix node, right, on a decentralized server, which is double the fun because you are not really relying on a centralized authority to do it, right? So that's one of the projects. Why I really like Akash Network is because they have also been heavy on AI. They recently had a community proposal to fund people who are bringing in GPUs to the cloud, right? So you can also do things like train your AI, post your AI output, and by using GPUs from the Akash cloud. So that really brings in the token utilization for Akash Network, right? So similar to Akash, there's also another project called Kudos, CUDOS, who's also doing something very similar where it's not focused just on servers, but even if you have some spare compute lying around, you could rent it out to Kudos and earn some Kudos tokens in return. And both of these are like really great Cosmos projects, right? So that's, and both of this again come into the decentralized physical infrastructure category, which seems to be really the catalyst for this bull run. Everybody seems to be going crazy on Deepin. So really something to watch out for, right? That's one. Maybe another project that I have been following closely is called Stargaze. Some of you might know Stargaze, which is the home for this NFT project called Bad Kids. If you have followed around me on Element or Twitter, you can see that I have like a weird looking cartoonish drawing NFT.
I love that. I really like your profile picture.
Yeah, so I am also big on NFTs. I really like NFTs for the art. So I've been collecting quite a few of them, and Stargaze is really like the premier NFT place where you
Silly
can trade.
JPEGs, you say?
Sorry.
Silly JPEGs, you say?
Yeah, I mean it's a JPEG. It's just complicated JPEGs on chain, right? So anybody could go to Stargaze, and one of the things that you could do on Stargaze is that they have customized Cosmos in a certain way that trading NFTs and minting NFTs is sort of free. Of course, for minting NFTs, you need to pay the mint fees. But other than that, if you want to trade NFTs or maybe even list it, it's all for free, right? Let's say if you go to OpenSea, you'll know that if you want to use it, it costs like hundreds of dollars. So instead, you could use a platform like Stargaze. There is also one called Omniflix, which is also doing NFTs. So if you are bullish on NFTs or something, Stargaze and Omniflix is something that you should definitely check out. Um, and do buy NFTs. I mean, if you like NFTs, who doesn't like NFTs, right? Right. Also, one other project that I really want to talk about, but it's sort of a gray area for us to talk about, is Osmosis. It's one of the decks for Cosmos. It's the premier decks. I truly believe that it's the true hub for Cosmos. Um, if you guys have, if you know Osmosis, it's like where all the tokens come together and you can trade tokens, right? And some of you might know that I think there was a community effort to also start a NIM pool on Osmosis. So you could, if you want to procure NIM tokens, and if you don't really want to interact with centralized exchange, you could always use Osmosis, right? It's really a
And
deep
let's put it this
permission.
way: we can't stop you from doing so, okay? But we don't even know if you do so. That's the position.
Yeah, we
As
cannot
NIM.
encourage you to do it, but I believe the community has already started a pool. What some people don't know is that anybody can add incentives, right? So if you are a NIM whale, for example, right, and if you really want to see decentralized adoption, what you could do is you could go to Osmosis. You could add incentives to the NIM pool so that people add more liquidity to the pool that you have. You could also create pools. So let's say if you want to create let's say a NIM USDC pool, you could do that on Osmosis as well. So that's one of the cool projects that I really like. Right. So those are some
Yeah.
of the projects. I mean, I could go
Just a
on,
quick
but I
note.
think we should probably stop
Go
it.
on, go on. Just before you go on, a quick note on Osmosis, right? Obviously, I've been hanging out with the NIM community for quite some time now, and I see all the questions that you ask us on all of the channels, right? One of the things that come up often is, of course, Osmosis, and it's really nice to see that finally there's an LP set up there because it's been like a community favorite basically. Like Dexes in general are everybody loves Dexes. They are great, and Osmosis is one of the best, right? Um, a real hub for Cosmos, and it's really nice that even though I can't mention it, maybe it's a private citizen. I could, but at least just to see that it's finally set up and there is an option is really great. Maybe actually, Sachin, before you go on, I'm a super noob. When it comes to like automated market making, which basically a liquidity like a liquidity pool on a DEX is. What's up with what's it called? Wait, the possible losses that you can have somehow. I can't remember their name.
The impermanent loss.
Exactly
Yeah,
that. I
impermanent
never
loss.
understood how that works. Can you explain that?
Sure. I mean, nobody understands impermanent loss. That's kind of the point of it, right? But everybody gets wrecked in it, right? So maybe just to explain impermanent loss in a simple way, let's say you are entering an AMM. That means that, let's say, AMMs are usually 50% token X and 50% of token Y, right? So let's say if it's a NIM USDC pool, you put 50% of NIM as a balance as on one side, and you put 50% of NIM on one side, right? So let's just, for the sake of simplicity, let's just say that there is 100 NIMs and 100 USDC on either sides, right? So now what happens is that when you are an LP provider, the amount of tokens that you have in the pool is not going to be constant because people are going to be swapping tokens, right? So let's say if somebody comes in and buys 15 NIM tokens, what happens is that the amount of NIMs in the pool reduces and the amount of USDC in the pool increases, right? So that means that you would have been better. And let's say hypothetically, if the price of NIM increases, you would have been better off just holding NIM rather than being in LP, because that means that you are exposing yourself to impermanent loss because of the adjustment which happens because of swaps, right? So because this is a huge problem, that's why AMMs have two ways to combat this. One is that AMMs usually have a swap fees. So the idea is that your impermanent loss is going to be offset by the swap fees that the pool generates. Some AMMs also go ahead and do something called incentivization, which I was talking about. So let's say if it's a popular pool on Osmosis, you might have noticed that it has a lightning symbol next to it, which means that it's incentivized, which means that if you are an LP provider, you also get Osmo tokens in return, which kind of sort of offsets your losses in impermanent loss, right? So an impermanent loss is often not permanent. So let's say if somebody comes and sells some NIM tokens, it's going to go back, but you cannot really predict when people are going to be swapping, right? So that's really impermanent loss in simple words. I mean, there is a bigger explanation to it, but I'll probably not go into the
I
details.
totally understood that. No, I didn't. Anyways, we'll go back to this at some point. Maybe I will bother
So
you with some
basically,
DMs.
yeah. So the TLDR is that you can have losses when you enter AMM because of the swaps. Because when you create swaps, the token balance is going to shift, right? So it's just think that just don't LP into pools if you don't know what you're doing is like the TLDR of it.
Okay,
Or let's say
so sorry for the.
if you have heavy incentives, go for it.
All right, sorry for the sidestepping or like the derailing the combo. Let's give us some other juicy projects that you're keeping a close eye on. Okay, wait. First of all, question: is it Cosmos only? Like literally, like nothing. You care about nothing other than Cosmos projects.
Let me think. Yeah, I think all of my efforts have been concentrating on Cosmos because it's quite a lot. Because I've been looking at Ethereum a lot. I was doing a lot on Ethereum, but then I realized it costs like $100 to create a swap. So I was like, no, I'm not going to use Ethereum. I like when you're really a degen and when you're doing a lot of swaps, it doesn't really make sense to use Ethereum. Um, because it costs a lot in gas fees, right? But in Cosmos, it just costs you pennies, so it's much easier to trade, right? So mostly been on Cosmos, right? One of the other projects that I am keeping a close eye on is something called Neutron. Neutron is again a depermissioned general purpose blockchain, which is gaining popularity because it's sort of becoming the hub for meme tokens,
Uh,
right? Who doesn't love meme tokens, right?
Everybody
So
does. Great.
so what it allows you to do is that anybody can create a meme token. So you could just, if you really have some knowledge of Cosmos, what you could do is you could go to Neutron, you could create your own meme token, and then you could even distribute it to people, right? And there are also some really great tools on Cosmos, which lets you to airdrop tokens to users. And then even create a community, right? So that's one of the projects that I'm looking forward to. Um,
Okay.
there are also projects like Injective and Say, which also has like similar ways where meme coins are flourishing. So I'm just really not really focused on those things, but Neutron is something that I'm keeping my eye on.
Okay. So, uh, this is a question that is useful if you answer it for me. Obviously, like I told the community and you guys, the team as well, I'm looking to bring more people from the outside on the community calls this year, and we may actually start doing or basically continuing um, the fireside chat tradition that we basically started with Shipyard. I think there were some really nice fireside chats with some fun and knowledgeable people outside of NIM, and of course one of the general like group of people to mingle with would be Cosmos people. Obviously, we're in the same boat, right? So I'm looking to bring some folks on. So if you could choose who, or maybe just name the project. You don't need to say a name, but who would you bring on an M community call? Who would be your top three, top five, whatever?
Oh, that's a hard one. Uh, maybe one alpha that I can give community is that we have been looking around on enabling some privacy. It's something that the community really wanted. So Secret Network, if you guys have heard of it, so what Secret Network does is I believe Secret is also part of the UPA, the Privacy Alliance that we have. I'm not sure if they're still members of it, but Secret Network, what it does is it allows you to sort of have private execution, right? So what secret does is that once you move tokens to secret and you do something called wrapping around SNP20 tokens, you have complete privacy, so nobody can actually look at the chain and figure out what transactions you're doing, right? So that also adds a layer of privacy. So secret network is something that we are trying to, or maybe helping out community with enabling it, because I mean, we don't really want to position ourselves as a privacy token for legal reasons. But if that's something community is interested, we should definitely look into that. And we should probably also look at maybe bringing in Akash network, because what I believe during the testnet days, there was a script which you could just run and you could spin up a mixnet on Akash. I'm not sure if that still exists, but I'll look around. So if anybody is interested, I'll take a look at it, and then which will enable you to run mixed nodes on Akash. And once that's done, maybe we could also discuss with Akash on how we can, you know, partner together and do great things.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Look, big thanks for those tips. Actually, we did hang out with Secret earlier. I know a few people from there. They are a really amazing project. So I actually may be able to bring them back on. Akash, I don't know anybody, so if you can like introduce me, that would be great. But sounds great. Would be nice to have them on. And then of course I extend this invitation to the community as well. If you think that there's some project that would go well in one of these community calls, who you love and who are doing a lot of good work, and especially the privacy realms, then make sure to let us know, because I'll be happy to bring people from the outside on. If not,
Oh, did we just lose Sudo? Looks like we did. Oh, he's
yeah,
back.
sorry.
Hey, Sudo.
Yes, I'm here. Apologies. Yeah. So if you have anybody in mind from other projects, or maybe just a project in general, who you would like to see on NIM community calls, then make sure to let us know, because I would love to bring some new people on. With all of that said, I think we're like bumping up against the end of this against the end of this community call. So Sachin, do you have any like lost pieces of alpha, or something that we should know?
Uh, let's see. I mean, not really, but if you really are interested in exploring Cosmos ecosystem, I would really say you could just look at something called the map of zones. I can drop a link to that later. But what it really does is it sort of summarizes the IBC transactions which are happening in Cosmos. So if you're really somebody who's interested in and knowing that how the narrative is shifting in Cosmos, one way to look at it is how IBC transaction works, right? So maybe for those who don't know, IBC is the way where you can transfer tokens between one chain to another. So we some of you might know that we use an IBC transaction with Gravity Bridge to do the bridging to Ethereum, right? We also have an IBC connection with Osmosis, so that's the way we transfer NIM tokens from Nix to Osmosis. So if anybody wants to use it in Osmosis, so Map of Zones is this amazing tool which lets you look at IBC transactions. And one thing that I have to mention is that Cosmos recently got native USDC. I don't know if anybody knows. So before this, all of the USDC or all the stable coins that we had on Cosmos was bridge tokens, right? So we had a bridge like Gravity Bridge or Axelar, and people would just bridge tokens, and that's on paper risky, because if the bridge gets hacked, your USDC is going to zero, right? And we have seen this earlier where bridges get hacked, and then your USDC gets depegged and sort of lose value, right? So this project called Noble on Cosmos, they don't really have a token, so guys don't look for it. But what they did is that they partnered with Circle, which who is, if you guys don't know, is the issuer of native USDC, right? And they got native USDC so that we don't really have bridging risk. So I believe that really energized Cosmos. And maybe to give you with a little bit of alpha on how good Cosmos is, I mean, this is not a dig at any other projects, right? But maybe as a comparison, native USDC launched on the same day on Polkadot and the Cosmos ecosystem um, about 2 or 3 months back, right? So the amount of USDC you can find on Polkadot right now is about 20 million, and right now I think as of now, I haven't checked, but the last time I checked, it was about 119 million US dollars on Cosmos. So you could
Yeah,
really
that's
see
not
how.
surprising at all. I mean, Polkadot, it's not a high bar to clear to be to be more popular than Polkadot. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry for firing shots like that, but
I know, and one of the things that we're also going to be flipping Polygon soon in terms of native USDC issuance. So Cosmos is doing exceptionally well in terms of, adoption. And one of the I believe that one of the key metrics for adoption, for looking at adoption, is the DEX activity, because that's what really you can do to measure activity, because DEX volumes speak a lot. So yeah, look at map of zones, guys, and if you really want to look at, if you are a trading person or a degen, do look at Osmosis. You also have something called Astroport, which is really sort of like a degen hub where you can buy meme coins. Not financial advice again, but if you're into that sort of thing, that's your place to be.
before we go, Sachin, I'm sorry, we got a really good community question which I want to address before we go, if you're okay with that. So Bon Pari's asking, are privacy coins under danger of government ban nowadays? This is a really great and very timely question, and it looks like yes, maybe not ban, but like definitely regulatory control, right? You saw different exchanges unlisting privacy tokens left and right. That's for a reason, right? Uh, there's a lot of like FUD going on around crypto in general, and one of those things that people mention often is, of course, money laundering and like illicit stuff that they can be spent on. It's absolute bullshit when it comes to Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other radically transparent blockchain, right? But but for privacy coins, there's a real risk. So if they wanna control something that really actually has something to do with I mean, probably has something to do with financial crimes and all of that stuff, then privacy coins are kind of like a good target. This is unfortunate, of course, because there's a lot of legitimate use cases for privacy tech like privacy coins, but it is the reality, right? On the other hand, what is important, and already someone pointed it out to you, Bon, in chat, the NIM token is not a privacy coin. So this is important to understand. So the NIM coin is what it's like. A NIM token is a utility token, and it's one of those radically transparent tokens. So anybody can see with a blockchain explorer what how many NIM tokens you spend or like send to what address and all of that stuff. This is important. This is because this is the one thing that is likely to be under more regulatory scrutiny going forward, right? But when it comes to networks, so you say in the chat that that we might still be banned. You're afraid. This is of course always legitimate because power in general really doesn't like privacy tech, especially not backdoored or not easy to break privacy tech. So this is of course always a risk, but something that is important to understand is that for this to happen, so for something like maybe the NIM VPN to be banned or using the mixnet to be banned, you would also have to ban basically VPNs in general as well, right? And that's especially in the West. Like, that some countries like China and Russia restrict VPN use, right? But in the West and by and large in the world, it's not likely to happen because most companies would collapse tomorrow if VPNs were banned, because things would leak left and right, and everything would be exploited. VPNs are very fundamental, and other such like fundamental like encryption based tech is very important to how we do business these days, right? So in general, how Western law usually looks at networks. I'm not a lawyer, but this is like in general how based on precedents we see that networks are treated as utility providers. So similarly to how I can't sue my gas company for someone using that gas to, I don't know, make a bomb and blow something up or whatever, right? In the same way, the government can take action against someone, for example, using their phone to make a phone call that then initiates something very bad. Because in that case, phone companies would shut down immediately because they have no way of controlling what sort of information is carried through the phone network, right? Same is true of internet providers. So for this reason, um, utility providers usually are treated neutral by law, right? And we would have to see something like if this changes, then the world has gone to shit to an extent where it doesn't matter anymore anyway. So NIM itself, right? NIM VPN itself and the network and all of that has like strong legal standing. It's not likely that it's ever going to be banned. Privacy coins, I'm afraid, NIM token is not a privacy coin, but other privacy coins are likely to face more regulatory scrutiny going forward. All right, sorry for the long rant, guys. Hopefully that clarifies this. Anything to add there, Sachin?
No, I guess maybe just one point is that we have been doing a lot of censorship measurements, and it looks like we are not censored yet. But I believe one of the medium to long term plans of the team is to also add censorship resistance. So in case if NIM gets censored, you have so you have multiple ways to do censorship resistance so that you can get over those bans. So let's say if a nation state bans hypothetically bans NIM gateways, then exit gateways, then that would be a real problem, right? But I believe the team is also actively looking into not right now, but I believe the plan is to also look at censorship resistant methods so that you can circumvent those bans. Just
Exactly. So, I mean, censorship resistance has been something that was like part of our R&D for quite some time. Obviously, a privacy system is only as good as it can be used um, by the people who actually need it, which is oppressed people and people in regions where a tool like this would be censored otherwise. So, censorship resistance is important. It's not very easy. It's a tricky problem, but we have some big brains working on the problem. So hopefully NIM will also be like fairly censorship resistant, NIM VPN and the NIM network. All right, with all of that said, I already stole like 6 more minutes of the audience's and Sachin's time, which I apologize for. Maybe in return, we're not firing you actually, Sachin. You still have a week, okay? I'm just kidding. Sachin is not going anywhere. We are going away from this call though, so big thanks for everybody for joining and also for the lovely community questions. We didn't have time to answer all of them, but we can keep the conversation going on the NIM Matrix channel if you want to. Now, of course, coming up is what you've all been waiting for. I'm going to share the secret phrase for today's pull-up to claim it. Wait, let me look at my notes. What the secret phrase is. You're going to love this week's pull-up. So the secret phrase is ultra rare NFT, all in one word. The exact spelling will be shared in the chat. So you need to go to, as usual, nimtech.net/go/pullup and enter the yes, exactly this in the exact spelling. Now, I will say before you mint your NFT today that our wonderful Kate, the community manager who usually designs the pull-ups and the banner images, is on leave. So today's pull-up is a special one. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Sachin, make sure to claim it as well. This will probably be the most special pull-up ever for a NIM community call. All right, with all of that said, big thanks again, Sachin, for joining. Huge thanks for the audience, also for listening in. Sachin, do you have any final words?
Thanks for having me, Suro. This was really fun. Although I was a bit nervous when you were asking all the technical questions about NIM. Glad I could contribute and share some region advice with the community. As usual, if you have any questions, I'm really happy to chat about Cosmos or anything else that you really want. I'm available on Element on most of the channels. So just let me know if you have any questions. And thank you so much, guys, for being patient and listening to me.
Catch you later, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye bye.